All right, sample exercise 4.15. This is a neutralization reaction. So how many grams of calcium hydroxide are needed to neutralize 25 milliliters of 0.1 molar nitric acid? First thing you need to do is write out the balanced chemical equation for the neutralization reaction that occurs between calcium hydroxide and nitric acid. This is important because we're going to need to establish what ratio the reactants react in. Is it a 1-to-1 ratio, 1-to-2 ratio, and how that affects the ratio of products that are produced. So we'll take our acid, HNO3, nitric acid, plus our calcium hydroxide. Neutralization reaction produces water. And in this case, the salt is going to be calcium nitrate. Calcium has a positive 2 charge, and nitrate has a negative 1 charge. So when they come together, calcium and nitrate, this will be the formula. Now we need to balance. So we have 2 nitrates on the product side, we need 2 on the reactant side, and we need to put a 2 here to balance the hydrogens and oxygens. Next thing, we need to look at the information that they gave us. We're solving for grams of calcium hydroxide, and we know that we have 25 milliliters of a 0.1 molar nitric acid solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out how many moles of nitric acid I have in this solution, and then I'm going to use stoichiometry, a mole-to-mole ratio, using our balanced equation in order to determine how many moles of calcium hydroxide I have, and then in turn convert that to grams. So if I have a 0.1 mole per 1 liter, so 0.1 molar nitric acid solution, and I want to figure out how many moles are in 25 milliliters, or I need to make the units consistent, so it would be 0.25 liters. When I cross multiply and divide, I take my 0.025 times 0.1, and I get 0.0025 moles, and this is of the HNO3. So now that I've established how many moles of nitric acid I have, I can use my balanced chemical equation to determine how many moles of calcium hydroxide I have. So I take 0.0025 moles of the nitric acid, and to convert it to moles of calcium hydroxide, I use my balanced equation. For every 2 moles of nitric acid that react, I have 1 mole of calcium hydroxide reacting. Now that I've converted to moles of calcium hydroxide, I can take the final step and convert that to grams of calcium hydroxide. So for every 1 mole of calcium hydroxide, I find the mass of calcium hydroxide. So you look up the mass of calcium here is 40.1. And I have 74.1 grams of calcium hydroxide. So now I do the math. And I get 0.0926 grams of calcium hydroxide. So our final answer is 0.0926 grams of calcium hydroxide. That's how much would be needed to neutralize. So 100% salt and water neutralization of the nitric acid.